It's great to be with you, prime time. You know, one of the best, right up against the best in the business. Prime time slot tonight. Just downloading some Android Studio thing to finish the other half of the app because I didn't need to React to like do them at the same time. So what am I doing? I'm crossing over files from systems later on digitally over the last 4 or 5 months. 100, 108. Just got sick of this virus. Was okay at 108. I just was also sick of being fat in general. Progressively, I was getting better, but it's like my levels at 108 are just not like my best levels when I'm natural. Something's kicking me in the head like the best version of yourself is probably off everything, but a healthy version of me that doesn't have an autoimmune disorder. Also, I read an interesting article that says, oh, is that going to be annoying? Hold on. I read an interesting article. I'll put this down and fix the birds go batshit, literally. They just like hide and then talk to each other in like random perches, like my building. Hold on. The treacherous putting down and picking up my mic messes up the sound all the time. It's really interesting how no one tells you when you get on testosterone how bad it is to get off of it. Like, it's so hard. It's really hard. Testosterone, it's hard to calibrate like when you're sick and you decide to take androgens, like what's sick and what's just like withdrawal symptoms. I will say it makes you a little bit more aggressive, raising the dose, which is good. I was complacent in some of my trading. Like the market's just been garbage and like there's like no reason why the market can't finish down 10%, you know? And we could see just the entire gains of 2025 wiped out. We've seen this before. So capital expenditure weighted heavily towards the market indexes for like NVIDIA, hyperscalers building out their water cooling towers, their data centers in general. Just R&D research for AI. That alone, very expensive. $700 billion CapEx spends, like crazy numbers for the next 10 years have been projected. And I saw this with Facebook, but Facebook was offsetting a lot of this with their ad revenue going up. So Facebook, Meta, excuse me. But yeah, so, I companies that already have other revenue streams. And I don't think it's the model makers. I don't think the software companies are broken either. As long as you have proprietary data, you're good. But in a nutshell, with all this market weighted towards these like handful of companies, any bad news, any concerns, just terrible. But you start to look at the markets. Iran's a formality. We're going to win. The terrorist attack retribution will probably be a staged, false flag event to go into the next country, Turkey, whatever, blame China or something to go into Asia somewhere like somewhere in between the territories of Russia and China, calling it some sort of weird terrorist cell group like ISIS. That's probably just a mercenary cell that doesn't ever attack Israel, and we just use it to our bidding to justify, going into other countries. Like, look, ISIS is there. We have to intervene. Mercenaries for hire, creating terrorism. Less volatility there is. Oil's gushing. Literally, the 2x leverage ETF is at like 36. I remember it was at 22. I was trading it between like 22 and 28. It's flown. But this is not when you buy. The volatility is realized from an information set that's already complete. The war is ongoing. It's a bigger country than Iraq. It will take longer. But they're either on a suicide jihad mission to just die, or they'll make some concessions and agree to to avoid bloodshed, a transitional government that's approved by the United States and Israel. And that's it. When that happens, the markets will rocket up. I firmly believe that the world is going to be a weird place in the future that is not hospitable to decency and like normal like grounding of your touching grass. I don't agree that like everyone has to anoint Peter Thiel and Elon Musk as these like, I don't know. They are telling you what the future is and they have skin in the game, but we don't have to follow through. We don't have to go to Mars. Elon Musk is so full of shit. He said Mars, now we're doing the moon. Like he's putting off Mars. It's so essential we become a multi-planet ecosystem. Yeah, how are you going to heat up Mars? In order to actually terraform the atmosphere, we need more nuclear warheads than like every country put together. There's been some guys that have talked about this and know more about it than I do, and they've explained it in great detail how difficult a task that is. But he's sold SpaceX and to get government contracts, I think, on this larger, anyone else has coined it, where there's no demand. He says there's demand. The guy who's selling you, we have to be a multi-planet species. We have to become a Khrushchev scale, whatever, which I actually agree with in terms of harnessing the sun versus using fossil fuels or, random pimple juice from the ground that we use in combustible engines. I do think that's stupid. I do think that like if you think that electric cars are basically coal cars and you're just moving the carbon footprint like further to the left and such, that create like an equal or worse net carbon footprint to the combustible engines we see today of late model cars. It's like, well, we need to build the infrastructure to then justify the R&D spend for the batteries that will be more efficient, that will improve that system going down the line, that like batteries will become more efficient. The coal burning cars, as you call them, will become like less of a carbon footprint. Net carbon neutral will become like actualized, not an ESG like Paragovian like tax where you tell your competitors that, hey, you have to reach this level, otherwise you can't compete. And it's rigged towards the market makers that are currently exist with market share. But I just don't like these like charlatans who like tell you this is it, this is what it is. You have to create demand. You have to synthesize like fervor. You have to almost be delusional as an entrepreneur. But the dystopian idea of like no one working, Elon Musk, I listen to what he says. You have to listen to these people in terms of what they're saying because they're kind of like copying each other. Elon's like 10 years, if you're worried in 10 years about like safety, that's cussing at a wall, referring to it as his like stepdad that used to hit his mom. And he doesn't have a bed. And you're saying that guy and myself are both headed towards the same trajectory. But it doesn't look good for him. So what are you talking about? The banning of paper money, the complete control of currency, US dollar through a digital currency base, where cross-referencing dollar denominations will be like banned outright, like same like privacy coins that are difficult to trace using like ring cryptography technology like Monero. But then imagine if like the ruble is banned in terms of pair trades through the digital system itself. That would be interesting. You effectually make it not useful to hold rubles, and so the sovereign cannot exchange goods and services because they have to be settled with the like USDT of choice. Okay? That's where I think Bitcoin as a Trojan horse has come into play, because currently the Fifth Amendment and the 14th, that protect you as a consumer, you as a citizen, from unlawful search and seizures of property, particularly the purview of looking into your accounts without a subpoena. There has to be some sort of probable cause. FISA court, lower barrier to entry, but that's involving terrorism. Still not good. They can say, oh, we thought he was a terrorist, but now he's realized he's selling marijuana. But would you have known he's selling marijuana if it wasn't for the FISA warrant? That's happened many times, and it seems very easy. In ledger balances on the blockchain, your Bank of America account, if it were on said blockchain, is more transparent than it is today by a factor of, I don't know, a lot. Twofold, not quite twofold, from being a private to being public, but basically those addresses are might as well be names. The transfer of assets, even though they have these long hashes, you went to the market, you bought milk, there's the denomination. So I just never thought the central banks would allow decentralized currency. That's where I think Satoshi, as smart as he may be, it's to beat Satoshi, if Satoshi wasn't a government entity or sponsored by said entity, he was just like a mathematician, you had to allow the people to commit frauds based off of the corruption of his idea. And then you reel in the frauds. You reel in the frauds through letting them happen until the protection of the citizens against bad actors. That's where regulation or oversight comes into play. But if you know that you're losing control, and the central banks certainly at one point were not in control of trading pairs with loans to person at nominal rates of interest, you and I can borrow money against each other, proof of stake, and then we can kind of use an escrow through that system. But the Bitcoin or Avalanche is one. There's another one. Did all these little kind of off-chain oracles that settle these transactions with you. The cost of which are fractions of what a domestic wire transfer is, or a domestic transfer on PayPal. So speaking of which, Elon is implementing that on the X platform to destroy basically PayPal and to be another reason to be on his ecosystem. Basically having multiple services, charging, fractions, ideally, that would be the goal, so that everyone's in one spot. And then you basically create a subscription agreement, which they already have, but your offering is greater. Now you can transfer money. The more offers you have, the better value is transferred towards your ecosystem, which are your users. The more avenues for which they interact with your system, and different means of doing so, allows click-through rates, advertising. You can have them sign up for a sub, and advertising revenues there as well. Killing, what do you call that? Not killing two birds with one stone, but having your cake and eating it too. Or in the case of drug trafficking, you call that both ends of the lick. You go with the drugs, you take the guy's money, and you punch him in the face, and you keep the drugs. Both licks. Yeah. So. Make sure everything's good. Sorry, I'm still dealing with a cough. It's so interesting, Asmongold will get so many views in the middle of the afternoon. It's so weird. It's almost like Clav's views and Asmongold's views right now are being split amongst each other. It's almost like Clav's views and Asmongold's views right now are... You would think that their viewership is not the same.
Play any Smiley music?
She's pretty.
True.
Yeah, she's pretty.
Yes. Actually, no. Still.
So, before I get off this thing, make me money online. To just go make me money. I think using open code, and it's just the terms of service is the tough part. The terms of service is a tough part. can you just create a bot for me and then like spam bot a Spotify channel that I own or something? You kind of have to do this on your own. You have to hire like third parties. Like you can't like direct your agents. Now, what's interesting is like the open source model where you can like tear apart the kind of like barriers to that will be interesting. But I don't know, kind of like high frequency trading, it makes you wonder if the margins are just so small, because in order to like leverage those huge deals, you're basically directionally biased and time duration risk is biased. So your Citadel trading with another partner, like maybe 2 Sigma, high frequency trading, quantitative trading, large tranches, and maybe trading size like $500,000 worth of shares of a company. One of you has a duration risk differential, one slightly longer than the other. Maybe you're just moving something off the books temporarily. You're going to buy it back, whatever it is. Maybe you found this weird system where when you guys trade the money back and forth, almost parking it with each other, the price goes up a lot, and then 6 hours later it dumps. Like in the, I don't know, something like that. Maybe like it triggers block trades. It's not just like the large trades themselves that are being moved intraday. The block trades are triggered by the high frequency trading, and it's like kind of nominal. I think like the scalping of these things they're not that lucrative if everyone's doing it. So, what is the means of value? How much margin can you actually get off anything if everything's digitized and AI is like makes it so you don't have to work? Well, where's the store of value in terms of margins, cost versus what it takes to feed yourself? How does that work? Right? Like where is the if you knowing HVAC provides a knowledge-based margin against the cost of goods and services. So that is your labor, that is your supplies, that is like, your overhead or whatever, like net, you're getting some sort of operating margin that's positive. If I can download everything and do HVAC myself, your salary gets smaller because your knowledge-based advantage gets smaller. If I have a robot that I finance for $30,000, the price of a Kia, and it doesn't know Kung Fu or HVAC in this case, I download the firmware and now it knows everything about HVAC, and it's probably open source. And then it can fix my compressor on my roof without me having to hire someone for $250 or whatever it is. So first the cost before the robots exist that are, with the fingers that are, the most complicated part of them, for when they jack you off at night, when you put coins into their slot. Before Westworld, you're going to have to like read this, like whatever Claude, and tells you what to do. And then the prices for the laborers goes down. And then you buy something 1 or 2 years, they, service it, and then the contract's up and you have to pay for it. And that's where they make their money. But what if you could fix it yourself? It drives down the cost of everything. But the standard of living does not go down immediately because, rents and everything are based off 30-year fixed rate mortgages. That's why I think they have to ban like dollars and control inflation surreptitiously, the government. All these buildings in North America are based off 30-year fixed rate mortgages. Yes, there's still huge software engineering salaries. Yes, this is not like a simple, like directional, like streamlined downturn for all jobs, but it does call into question that if agentic AI is like the end, and if you follow that to as a logical conclusion, then it's incredibly deflationary for knowledge-based work. Where does the insurance come from for the doctor, if your doctor's a robot? For general GP stuff, general practitioner, your PCP, that stuff. Not cancer necessarily, although I'm sure you can get a second opinion, all digitized. And you have like a hospital administrator, millions of jobs, like a doctor administrator gets paid lovely, 500 G's a year, whatever it is. But in the end, like the IP is just the means of production, which is the robot itself. If you own a robot company, well, you probably won't. Just a handful of companies will own everything. And it's like you really won't own anything because there's nothing to leverage. There's nothing to leverage in terms of intellectual property. Everything will already exist. That guy Leopold Aschenbrenner, whatever his name is, 19-year-old valedictorian of Columbia and started a hedge fund with like $5.5 billion, was on the trust and safety team at OpenAI and left. Dude, guy's a fucking freak show. And when I listen to him speak, he seems almost fraudulent in the way he talks because it's so absurd. I look at his holdings and what he's investing, and it's actually very interesting in terms of the infrastructure of the energy grid. Energy storage, energy for hyperscalers. The grid system being like the worst part. It's holding back everything in terms of this whole process. The cooling towers, like how do you actually cool these centers efficiently? All that's very interesting. Computing, the other end of it. Can you make the computing easier from silicon like chips, Pentium processors of old to like something more like photonic computing, which will then offset or leverage the improved energy infrastructure, energy grid. That's a massive problem as it currently stands, and it's the biggest impediment to the future. It's hot in here. Water? I should drink water. Hold on, let me make it a little cool. It's like a fucking furnace in here. Hold on. All Adderalled out. Hold on. The most racist car, there's a one outside, like an early 2000s Escalade. The most racist car is that car. The Cadillac Escalade was like made for black people. It's like there's weird chrome trimmings like the Griswold family truckster with the wooden panels, but it's just chrome. The giant grill, like standard chrome, like 20, like it brings you 20s with chrome on them as a standard like feature. Like it comes standard. If you're a soccer mom in suburbia, you have to actually like pay extra to not have that option. So racist. 3-6 Mafia, the big timers. Good stuff. What's happening in the world? So we got, what do we have tomorrow? Payroll, inflation data. Dude, someone needs to buy Snapchat. It's just such a piece of shit. 400 million monthly average users, loses hundreds of millions of dollars a year. Like a lot of that is stock-based compensation. So like feels destroying the value of that company. And those users you could like implement into something. You have existing user base. It's unbelievable. Roblox is able to get like 15-year-olds to buy like, you know, credits on their games, like inter-game credits, something Epstein was allegedly part of, that he was one of the first guys to create this. Like, what if you just like have them buy like accessories inside the game so that incentivizes kids to use money? But then how do you use it? Well, they use their parents' credit card. And their parents like these nominal, can I have $4.99 to buy this like sword in my game? And no one cares. I was shocked they were able to do that. To monetize like the 15 and 19-year-old population, I was very surprised by that. And they've added to their user base with like people over the age of 25, 35. The fastest growing demographic for Roblox before the recent pedophile scandal, but I'm sure it still exists, like this predators on the site, because it is like a stupid like block game thing, like build your own video games, and like they're very like rudimentary, kind of like Minecraft, whatever, but like, you know, it lends itself towards young people. But there's a bunch of older people on there that like really enjoy that shit that aren't just pedos, and they are spending a lot of money. What is Roblox trading at? Bruh, I have to take a look. Just like fear of like pedos, but no one seems to give a shit about the Epstein files. Isn't that crazy? Like the company was $140 a share in October, dude, in October of last year. It's at 60, dude. Hold on, I have to write this down. Like a serious deep dive. Let me get my notes. Where is it? Oh, sports quit. Hold on. I hate that. This fully maxed out Mac is starting to not do its thing. It's a 2018, fully maxed out, 2 terabytes, 32 gig. Let's look at what I got on there. Hold on. What is this Mac? On the Intel thing. So two graphics cards, 32 gigabytes, 2 terabyte hard drive, and it's already causing me some problems. Like I had to like close. It must be Xcode and all the other stuff I have on here all the time. You know what's a big memory waster? Discord. God, Roblox. Roblox is right at my window right now. Who's in Roblox? The Adderall, maybe the extra testosterone makes me like very, I don't know, focused on stuff that's retarded. I hope this is good content. Roblox. Who's buying? Someone must be buying the first quarter because it went down a lot in 4Q. There must be some notices here that aren't if you're a kid. To school, otherwise you can be charged with a crime. They're not allowed in unless they get vaxxed. You're a bad parent. Boom. Child vaxxed. You're a bad parent. Boom. Child Family Services comes in, destroys you. Family Services comes in, destroys you. You know. Whoa. David Basuki, change in shares is about 20%. That's wild. Who are you, David Basuki? You must be the CEO, founder. Who are you? Yeah. This is rebalancing. Geode Capital, State Street bought up. They're still around $1 billion. But you want to look at like the cool players. You want to look at the some of the quant funds. So Renaissance is down. They have a $500 million position. They're down. This is based off shares. Nothing, like 0.3%. Two Sigma's up. They've doubled their positions. They're at $250,000. Now they're up at 530. DE Shaw is a good one to look at. They've at ARK Invest I don't look at. Although they did do a good job with NTLA initially in their position around 11. I followed suit, and then we flew it up. It's good. What do we got with news? Anything interesting? Wall Street Journal. Trump say anything today? That Marine getting like kicked out of a Senate hearing was ridiculous for protesting or, basically saying that we just want to die for it. How much like what we call like anti-Israel rhetoric is like out there in Congress, and it doesn't matter. The will of the people does not matter. And when you think of like Larry Fink saying you'll own nothing and like it, BlackRock, that is like the epitome of like your voice means nothing. Your exercising your free speech on platforms that are siloed and algorithms that like make you think that you're actually talking to people. You're not. You're talking to like-minded bigots and anti-Semites, as they call it, on these like random sequestered areas of X and like online sites. 4chan itself has been sequestered away. You're creating pundits and people to make money online to grift, but there's not actual change. Like the Nick Fuentes notion of like a surreptitious groyper that went to Andover, Exeter, to Groton, whatever, to Georgetown, then to Harvard Business School, and that he's going to like withhold his groyperism, build a family, make tens of millions of dollars or more in the private sector, leave, go to a municipal government, political, election, maybe get on and win on that on his own merit as a single man. Then for state, he's going to have to get married, or he's gay, outwardly gay, probably not a groyper, but I'm sure there are a few. Outwardly gay or married with a family. That's how you win. They trust you. People trust people that are married. So that's the next stage of the electoral thing. You think you're going to come out as a groyper? Your wife's going to like give you blowjobs after you lose your country club membership and you can no longer afford to fly her to the South. The whole thing is just such a circle jerk. None of it's real. The world is like controlled by the means of power that will not like, they'll give the illusion that there's like, availability. But like what Nick Fuentes talks about is like rich people that like hide their political affiliations and then sacrifice everything. It just doesn't, I'm sorry. I think you don't get rich and then become an ideologue. And then like young people go into politics as ideologues and realize the system's rigged and they have to, in order to survive and thrive, they have to play the system. They're not making changes because the super PACs and the money control the system, and they're outside the checks and balances of the government. So, there is no like, I'm going to become rich. All the people I do business with, some of them are going to be Jewish, some of them are going to be like Muslim, whatever. I'm going to hide my political affiliations from everyone while I'm drunk in prep school. Come on. It's just not going to happen. It's not real. It's not real. The only person that gets rich out of that, I think Nick's hilarious, but it's just not, it's not feasible because you'd have to have a bunch of, look, 30% of the U.S. population has an IQ under 85. Okay. 30% of the U.S. population has an IQ under 85. Let's imagine that there are, 2 million groypers. How many trannies are there in the United States? Let's say there's the same amount of trannies as groypers that are going to be, that are groypers. And then of the population of groypers, how many of them will make $100 million? Let's be generous and say 10%. 100,000 groypers, 200,000 groypers are going to make $100 million each. Okay? And they are going to forego the private sector. How many? All of them? No. I would say another 10%. Okay, so you have 20,000 people at this point that are groypers that have $100 million are going to go into politics. How many of them are going to win? Half. Okay, so 10,000 groypers with $100 million are going into politics. What is $100 million times 10? It's $1 billion. Okay? The odds that all these people, all 10,000 of them, when the capital expenditure for NVIDIA for like the next 10 years is like $1.2 trillion, 700, 800 billion conservatively, that they are going to change the central bank structure, they're going to change government policy for all the people that are currently in power that are international and make us an isolationist country, withdraw from the world stage, which is required to rebuild infrastructure in the United States, and to the entire system, which is going to leverage assets and competitors against them with hundreds of billions of dollars, trillions of dollars at this point. And that they are going to somehow prevail because of like the grace of propriety or goodness. I know, because the system's corrupt. You don't beat the system. You destroy the system. You're not supposed to pay his mortgage or whatever the fuck. Yeah, it's fine. I get it. You don't want to be, you don't want to destroy a movement at its infancy when you're just getting traction in the mainstream and say Thomas Jefferson, the Tree of Liberty, the blood must be shed, in the face of tyrants, and to preserve the nation, preserve the liberty of its people, whatever the quote is. You don't want people to go out and shooting people and blowing up synagogues and stuff like that. Of course you don't. Of course you don't. But the fact remains that the people in power have the money. The only way to stop the system of corruption is to take the money from the private sector, people that are corrupting the public sector, the government officials and the elections and such. They are outside the checks and balances of the government. You'd have to confiscate their wealth. Is that legal? You'd have to go into their house and shoot them. Do you think Bill Ackman's going to let you do that without a fight? That's my point. His team of lawyers will destroy you. So what do you have to do? I'm not going to say it. That's the point. That's the whole fucking point. You have to destroy the system. I like Nick, though. He's fucking hilarious. I mean, objectively speaking, in terms of talent, I've never met anyone like that before. I've met him once, and he's very, very nice, very funny. I've spoken to him once. It's awesome. But I do think that J.D. Vance is a foregone conclusion. It's going to show you how powerful the system is. They're going to double down. There's going to be more censorship. People will be pushed to the outsides of the system of social media, just as they've done in the past, like the mid-2000s during the dawn of social media, where somehow Ben Shapiro, as a conservative, was able to rise up, but everyone else was censored. How interesting. Same shit's going to happen again. Same shit. And J.D. Vance is going to come out as cooler based, or he's going to completely distance himself from all this shit with Trump and be like the new MAGA, the reformed MAGA. I think they're going to, I'm not even kidding, I would not be surprised if some of the original assassination attempts against Trump were designed to martyr Trump, and then people who's stronger than the martyr? The person who's honoring him. They tried to do this with Erica Kirk, and it just backfired. She's just so disingenuous. But wouldn't J.D. Vance be in a stronger position now if he was holding up the mantle for Trump? Yeah. And it's kind of hard to overcome the Iranian war and all this stuff and then go into 2028. It's very difficult to do that. Trump's kind of taking all these bullets. J.D. Vance is distancing himself. The censorship will come on. All the pundits that are Groyper adjacent will, be pushed to cozy.net or onto the fringes. I'm telling you, it's going to happen. Mass censorship. All these pundits you've seen popped up, they're going to disappear, and they're going to push heavily the Daily Wire people again. They're going to push heavily the Candace Owenses. They're going to make the conspiratorial stuff fun. The Joe Rogan Experience and Candace Owens are right next to each other. They're going to be like, oh, you like anti-Semitism? Watch Candace. Controlled opposition. Tucker Carlson, the same thing. They're going to have the people, the largest audiences that are mainstream, plagiarize all the talking points to a degree, and they're going to push out the Nick Fuenteses of the world and everything else. It's not fair. It's wrong. But that's what's going to happen. The system is going to push J.D. Vance hard. They are doubling down. And that's the way the cookie crumbles. I don't think the Republicans, even if they thought J.D. Vance is a loser, I don't think they can handle letting J.D. Vance lose, not going completely 100% behind him, given what's going to happen if the Democrats take office, the retribution for the ICE raids and all this. It's going to be insane. The reopening of the Epstein files, even self immolation. They're gonna go after their own people just to make it look legitimate. They're gonna use it to leverage their position. They're gonna weaponize the DOJ to their end, just as it happened the other way. The funniest thing with the DOJ, that's for lying about oh, he actually submitted this document about the how much the ballroom or something was going to be, or some appropriations building. They were set to erect, and that the cost of it was X, and it was actually higher. It like, why would he there's no reason for him, there's no incentive, but he was like, that's crazy shit. That's this corruption on its own. It's gonna be tenfold. You saw the Comey stuff against Trump and the Russian hoaxes, all that'll come back tenfold. So who is the other candidate that's possible? A Tucker, maybe like some weird thing like that. But I think JD Vance is going to be the guy. I would not even be surprised if he like takes a back seat as the VP, but he is going to be part of it. Like you see like a ticket where Tucker Carlson becomes the candidate of choice, and JD is like part of it. I don't know. Like that's the worst case scenario, but like make no mistake, that's part of it. Like they're pushing it. You're either a Dan Bongino on the side helping, or a Tucker Carlson as a pundit helping, or you're like in the administration. And JD Vance is not going away. And the Red Scare girls are going to push him. The BAP people are going to push JD Vance. They're going to completely forget about the Iranian thing. BAP's been very critical of Trump about Iran. He's going to forget about it because he's a technocrat, homosexual technocrat, Jewish, and they're just going to push through JD Vance. And that's what's going to happen. JD Vance is like, he has a whole team trying to build something. Maybe he'll like, and JD Vance is like, and JD Vance's Secret Service like lost him somehow, and he like protects the kid, and there's a huge story, and yeah, they're gonna do all sorts of weird shit to pump him up, you know, because they really silenced him in the last few weeks or a few months from the ICE raids in Iran. He just wants to be like not even part of anything. It's such a bad look. But this is part of it. This is part of it. Finally, Tucker admitted that the Iranian war has associations with Emperor Julian and the raising of Iran. You know, the Amalekites, the Amalekites, and the general like destruction of Iran by Israel. This is like a commemoration of Purim, and the timing of this is directly associated with Judaism and Jewish life, and it's symbolic, it's religious, and he eventually admitted to that. I think that's good, because I think he's too much like the Jews have nothing to do with like Israel. It's like, okay, well, that's the one thing where the Groypers have a talking point that you don't really understand and refuse to admit. If you want to beat Nick Fuentes, you have to start like literally duplicating all his talking points and just plagiarizing everything. And just be like soft, be like, you know, we have to be nice to people. The Jewish people have been, you know, persecuted for millennia, but yes, there is a like an international Jewish like kind of like thought or kind of like cadre. They have this like hive-mindedness, neuroticism, and they, you know, they feel persecuted and scared, and you know, all these things. And so just like the cognitive dissonance, like that's the worst part of what makes the Jewish like position in society in the Western world actually vulnerable. If you just drop the cognitive dissonance, say, yeah, we're really weird, we do rule the Western world, we're very talented, we do work with each other, we don't want to be like killed, we don't want another Holocaust, and that's why the way we are, you know, neurotic, and we like, you know, we stick together. Yeah, and maybe, you know, we don't want to hurt anybody, we just like want to make sure we don't like you know, 1940s Germany doesn't happen again. If they went with that rhetoric, people would be like, hey, I get it. It's the cognitive dissonance. So I would not be surprised if Tucker Carlson, other people adjacent, kind of push this more like Nick Fuentes version. Like that's a heavy Nick Fuentes, but it's not, there's no like negative, mean spirited jokes or anything like that. And it makes Nick kind of less important to the conversation. It's basically nullifying him, which is the point all along. I guess they were intending to plagiarize everything and just make Nick obsolescent, steal the Groypers without Nick Fuentes, right, as the head, the person they can't control. And they didn't want to have to go too far, but eventually you just, hey, cut up with the lies. Cut it with like, oh, we don't really rule the world. We don't really have any power. We're just persecuted and innocent. And like, you know, the Iranian war has, Iran was trying to kill President Trump, and like they're one of the greatest threats to the Western democracy. Like, cut the shit. Cut the shit. You can say that, but you'd also say, no, this is like commemorating the erection of the third temple, the destruction of the Amalekites, and we are, finally coming to our destiny, and as a people, and we're feeling safer than ever before. We have to thank the United States for all their help, and the great people of the United States. Thank you. We are indebted to you always. If that sort of humility was like more the play, that would be awesome, because that's where you get like a symbiotic kind of like understanding. Same thing like middle-class white women that are like feel really bad about like like black people's like plight, and like they're very, very progressive when it comes to those things, to the point of like getting raped and stabbed on subways because they feel like it's wrong to ever possibly think something could happen. It's going to be more people will be like, hey, you know what, these Jews are pretty awesome. I like basketball. They own all the basketball teams. I like, this. I like money. They're really good with money, And instead of like using rappers to sensationalize like money and greed in the most like kind of grotesque way, it's like, no, there's another way to do it. They do it the best way. They own the record. They've been treated horribly by all these countries, and they've given me basketball and rap music. I should really be, they're awesome. I think Nick Fuentes is stupid for being so anti-Semitic, and that's how they win. That's how they win. It's like it's a nicer like version than this like fake ass like we never do anything wrong. We never done anything wrong ever. We're amazing, We're just good people. We've been persecuted. We don't understand. Like, all these people just hate us. They're just jealous. That makes people quote unquote anti-Semitic. So that's where I think they're going to go. They're going to go take all of Nick's points, soft version of them, ingratiate themselves, push J.D. Vance. The power of the people is becoming so weak to the point where everything's out in the open and they still can't win. Iran was a foregone conclusion. If Trump was ever organic, selling people about Marco Rubio taking money from Miriam Adelson back in the day, he does exactly the same thing. It's like, let's say, though, he was corrupted. Lawfare won, and he had to play the game. Let's say 2016 version of Trump, Ben Shapiro despised him. Let's say that was all real. And then finally they just like put him into the fold and became a neocon because he was forced to. And he's done the ultimate paleoconservative, even though he's not. But he's acting like it. He's playing the game to a T. Let's see here. Oh, did my hour. I did an hour. It's pretty good. Let's check X. Check the news. I'm like hiding. The cough just keeps wanting to come out. I have to speak like softly. I'm like, it's like catching me. Is there anything going on? I feel really sweaty. Oh, the thing about this AI stuff where they keep pushing like how like Dario Amodi, whatever the guy's name is for Anthropic, says like, 12 to 18 months, all these jobs will be obsolete. A lot of this is a lie. Like a lot of this is fake. It's like most people use AI just to like take pictures of their ex-girlfriends and like put them on like porn stars' bodies still, and then make like videos of them. Yeah, that's what people are doing them for. The agents suck. They generally suck. Like the tasks are already out there, like in terms of the README file from which the tasks are being met. It's been done before. They're just copying actions and taking your kind of like utilitarian ability to read and then apply what you read, and it's doing it for you. And it's really mundane. And if you have an agent talk to another agent, there's all these hallucinations. It's really bad, and it extrapolates outwards and gets worse and worse. It's kind of like quantum. When there's like an error in a quantum computer, it like magnifies. the models are really rudimentary. They're really stupid. It seems like a better version of a search engine, to be honest. The reason why I enjoy still using Google is not the AI mode, is because I can go to the primary sources of the information and see them rather than have it answered for me. Because sometimes I feel like ChatGPT or something is too filtered, and it's just like I want to do a little bit of my library where I'm like researching and I'm seeing options. One of the first things that Google did back in the day was to get advertisers to pay more. They gave you bad search results, and probably still have, to keep you on the page longer, so the click-through rates are higher, right? And I think that does some things to your ability to go to the library, go to Google, look at the Dewey Decimal System, and kind of like filter on your own what you want for you. It like indicatively tells you as a directive what's what, and it can be completely wrong, or it's like incomplete information set. And you'll notice this when you know more than ChatGPT and you explain or clarify. It's like, oh yeah, that's true, as if it like was always true, and it just was, I don't know, like it just didn't want to tell you that in the first place. Like, of course that's true, but I thought we were talking about this. It's like, sound like a pathological liar. Hold on. Uh-oh. Is that why I'm so hot? Am I having a weird like flare thing? How hot is it? I feel really hot. Hold on. I don't know. Maybe I should like slow it down. It says it was 60, 69, but it felt, I don't know. Maybe I should take it easy, take care of my health. All right. Well,